Welcome to Power Parenting. As always, our goal is to connect church and home by equipping parents to be the primary faith trainers in their home. And today we're talking about a powerful topic. Chris is with me. We're talking about confession over concealment. And what we mean by is on our kids' best day, we want them to come to us as parents. And on their worst day, we want them to come to us. Instead of concealing what's happening around them, we want to build and foster a home where everything's open and kids can come and we can talk and communication's there. So confession over concealment. We want to share two ways to build that in our home. Chris, what's the first way?
Yeah, so this is a huge deal in my home right now with a 3-year-old. We're totally laying down the groundwork of, hey, you can come to us and talk to us about anything, or if we don't handle things right, then my son's gonna take it and he's gonna hide it. And one of the biggest things I've learned both from student ministry and from parenting is celebrating confession. Whenever your child comes to you and they bring something that is weighing on their heart, or maybe sin that's going on, or something that just isn't right, when they bring that to you, they are bringing the most vulnerable parts of their heart to you, and they're laying it just right at your feet. And what's fun is you have the opportunity to celebrate that they're walking in what God has called them to do. First John talks about how, we need to bring darkness to light.
Absolutely.
And so often, we get our own image wrapped up in our kids' struggles. And so we get upset with them or frustrated with them. And that's not to say we take sin lightly, but at the same time, when they're bringing that to you, they're doing what God has called them to do and what he's designed for us, which is confessing it, bringing it to light rather than concealing it from us. And one of the most powerful stories I've seen a few years ago, I had a boy, he was driving with me, and he looked at me and he said, Chris, I'm struggling with sin right now. And he's talking specifically about lust. And I told him, I said, hey, you need to go talk to your dad about that. And he was like, oh, I can't do that. And about a day later, I talked to him. He's like, I talked to my dad, and it was the best thing ever. He told me he was so proud of me for confessing to him and sharing what was going on. And that moment of celebration, that moment of saying, I'm proud of you for doing that, has opened the door of communication for that family and for that dad and his son. And I watched that and I'm like, man, I want that with my child. And I want to do my very best, even on the worst days. If my son's bringing that to me, then I need to celebrate that.
Which can be super hard, but keeping in mind, if I can celebrate this, even though whatever the conversation could be, the celebration of that continues the conversation for next time.
Exactly, it opens the door.
Yeah, if you shut it down or go irate or lose it, you're communicating mom and dad aren't safe. And so to foster confession over concealment is we celebrate that, even if it's something silly. My son came home last week and he got in trouble in class, and he was like, after school we always go to the park. He's like, I shouldn't go to the park today. We're like, why? And he just was like, I messed up at school, and here's what happened. And it was somewhat silly on his end, but he thought he did something really bad.
Yeah.
And so for us, man, hey, we are so proud that you came to us first and told us this, and he gave us his own consequences not going to the park. He could have gone to the park, he could have hid it, he could have, and then we got home later that night, found it in his folder, but he initiated that. And so we've said several times, hey, thank you so much for coming to us and sharing those things with us.
Well, and what's huge is like we don't recognize those little moments as being so big, but the reaction in that moment like you said, either tells them, hey, I can bring things to light and I can talk to my parents and the channels of communication are open, or if you react the opposite of that, then it shuts down everything, and you never know how that's going to bleed into the other areas of their life and their heart,
Yeah, that's so good. So first principle is celebration, and it doesn't negate. There's going to be consequences at times. There's going to be stuff, damage control that you have to go through, but that small celebration of thank you, and I'm proud of you for coming to me, opens up the communication channels for later. And so the second principle of confession over concealment is we have to make everything discussable in our home. My house, we have rules, we have boundaries, we have all these things, but one of the things my kids know is they can come talk to us about anything at any point, any time. Everyth's on the table. We make it discussable. And so a practical tip that we have, because as they're getting older, there's some awkward conversations that they want to talk about. They don't want to do it in front of their siblings, or even sometimes my daughter don't want to talk in front of me. And so we have a key phrase in our home. So anybody listening, you can create a key phrase and tell your kids. And so if my son or daughter comes up to me and says, "Hey, Dad, pots and pans," it's a silly, there's a whole story behind it. But if they say pots and pans, then my response is, when do you want to talk? And put it back on them. And sometimes it's, can we talk at bedtime, or hey, can we talk right now in the driveway, or whatever it is. But we've made it, everything's discussable. There's been conversations that my wife's had with my daughter because we saw a commercial and she's just going, "What is that thing?" And my wife's like, "All right, we're talking." And so creating a culture in your house where everything's discussable fosters this confession over concealment on those bad days. And we got to have those open channels of communication.
Sure. Yeah. That's huge. And I think just, and on top of that too, just letting your kid know any time is a good time to talk. You know, Joe Landy, my boss, he always, his son would always come to him and say, "Hey, Dad, can I talk to you?" And he always says, "Anytime." Or anything. You know, it's on the table, and anytime, whenever you need to talk, I'm going to make time to do that. And so it's available.
We got to celebrate when they do come to us, and we got to foster that our home, everything's discussable.
Yes.
That's how we build a culture of confession over concealment. Look, we're honored to walk with you as we pour in the next generation of followers, one home at a time.